It's time!
Harpy Eagle versus Spotted Hyena. Fight to the death. Who will win? Welcome to Species MMA. I'm Native Black, and this is where we matchmake fights between different species of animals and settle once and for all which one would be victorious in a fight to the death. And while other channels just rattle off their base stats, say that the one that looks better on paper will win, and call it a day, all without any fucking memes, I delve deeper and answer how each animal would win and assign probabilities to those outcomes. Come for the analysis, stay for the memes. Let's begin. Unlike most animals, both the harpy eagle and spotted hyena have reverse sexual size dimorphism, meaning both of their females are larger than their males, although the female hyena also has a penis. So there's that. They also give birth to it, but best not to think about that either, I reckon. Therefore, this fight will be a catfight between an average female representative of both species. It will take place in a large neutral arena, but because the eagle obviously can fly, I will add that there is a dome over the arena so the eagle cannot perch anywhere but the ground, and the dome is also so high that it can fly high enough that a falling object would reach terminal velocity. As usual, we'll kick it off with their physical characteristics. In terms of weight, they aren't even close. An average spotted hyena is around 54 kilograms, while the harpies, like all flying birds, are very lightweight for their size, being only around 8 kilograms, or about 15% of the hyena's weight. Hyenas are quite the one-trick pony when it comes to their offense, but by goodness have they mastered that trick. I'm talking about their bite, of course. Their bite force is so preposterous for its size that it's become a bit of a household fact. It clocks in at around 1,100 psi, although outliers have been recorded well above this. This places their bite force above even lions and grizzly bears, crazy considering its relatively small size. The sheer force is complemented by their impressive array of teeth. Many animals with great bites have only 4 canines that are really huge and piercing, but almost every tooth in their mouth is a monster capable of impressing even Vlad the Impaler, being of various shapes to enact a smorgasbord of damage to whichever unlucky SOB is caught between them. Defensively, there's nothing really to write home about, nor here for that matter. It has no real armor with relatively thin skin and hide, and is small enough that it doesn't take thick penetration or too much blunt force to do substantial damage. Now, harpy eagles have claws that even Satan himself would be proud of. I mean, seriously, look at these motherfuckers. They can grow up to 5 inches long, and despite what she told you, that is definitely very long. In addition to this, they can exert a serious grip force of around 530 psi, which, to put into perspective, would hurt a lot. I hired a scientific coordinator on Fiverr for that fact. Fuck. Their foot is also freakishly large, so along with the inward curve of their talons, they can grip onto a relatively big object to deliver that piercing squeeze. I tried looking for actual numbers in this regard, but the Harpy Intelligence Agency is evidently keeping a very tight lid on this information, so I can only eyeball looking at images such as these to surmise that it is indeed sufficiently large to envelop the hyena's head ear to ear if the grip is on top of the hyena's head, or eye to eye if it's around the snout. One big advantage of birds using claw attacks, and this holds true for the harpy as well, is that it puts range between the other animal and its own fragile body, with the length of its legs in the way. The harpy's legs are pretty bulky and more defensively resilient than the rest of its body for sure, especially the tarsus, i.e. the lower leg. But its legs are not too long in comparison to some other birds. Still, they offer around a good 18 centimeters of range when extended. Harpy eagles do also have dangerous curved beaks around 5.5 centimeters in length that are capable of exerting enough power to break small mammal bones. but their use in killing in combat against medium to large prey is extremely limited, being reserved for consumption after the death has occurred. However, for very small prey offering little danger, the beak is sometimes used to sever the prey's spinal cord for a quick death. Defensively, harpy eagles are far more vulnerable than the hyena. Like all flying birds, it has hollow bones, making them much easier to crush or break. It has a thinner neck than the hyena as well, a smaller head that could be enveloped by the hyena's wide jaw, and its wings are fairly easy to damage to the point of rendering their flying either severely hindered or impossible altogether. As far as overall size goes, the hyena is longer at around 145 centimeters to the harpy's 95, but in standing height the harpy is slightly taller at 100 centimeters to the hyena's shoulder height of 84 centimeters. Now, with all of that Pokemon card shit out of the way, let's discuss both of their combat experience, skill level, and fighting style before we start calling this match. Starting with the hyena. Being an intelligent carnivorous generalist build, occupying a large swath of varied environments across Africa, they have an equally varied diet and hunting regimen. Their reputation as scavengers is actually mostly exaggerated, as they directly hunt and kill between 60 to 95% of the food that they eat. And some of their prey that they kill, they get griefed out of eating primarily by lions. They are pack animals, and in a pack, they have a remarkably high success rate of hunts, around 74%. They do also occasionally hunt alone, but the success rate slips then to only around 15%. Their prey are also generally very large, preferably in the range of 56 to 182 kilograms, with the blue wildebeest being the most common medium-sized prey. Their list of frequent prey is very large and diverse. Because of their inadequate claws, they don't have the ability to cling onto their prey in the way that cats do, for example. So it is only their bite which attaches them, and for this reason, getting a good hold on, especially at the beginning, is crucial for them. Also, unlike big cats like lions that always target their opponent's neck, hyenas are far more varied in the parts of their prey's body that they'll attempt to bite. In fact, on medium to large animals, neck attacks seem pretty rare. Instead, usually they target the midsection or even their ass region, where their hind legs attach to the body. While leg attacks do happen, they're also less common than body attacks. With their vice-like grip, the damage they do mostly comes from shaking their mouth hard from side to side, which has the effect of very effectively tearing off flesh. On all but their smallest prey, it is an accumulation of damage through this method of biting, shaking, and tearing off flesh that leads to a kill. On top of their killing experience, they engage in plenty of play fighting, both as children and adults, which hones their skill level in a low-risk setting. Overall, they are very skillful combatants, with an aggressive and risk-taking nature, partly due to the luxury that being a pack animal affords them. They are also defensively very adept due to plenty of experience fending off carcass privileges from lions, leopards, and the likes. And finally, they have relatively good endurance levels, as they will keep up a chase at high speed for up to 5 kilometers. For this very purpose, their hearts are around twice the proportion of their body weight than lions. And this endurance in the hunt would also translate to good endurance over the duration of a fight. Harpy eagles are among the largest and creepiest looking birds of prey on the planet. Somehow they look like they're always wearing a mask, but I've been assured that's just their face. They have a look like they've been surprised to see you, but have simultaneously been plotting to kill you for the past hour. Very impressive. They inhabit mainly rainforests across South and Central America, occupying mainly the upper canopy layer. When fully grown, they are apex predators. They primarily prey on tree-dwelling mammals. Their favorites and most common prey are sloths, which a lot of research indicates makes up as much as 3/4 of their diet, because quite honestly, why wouldn't they be? I get the feeling sloths are to harpies what a fiery chalupa at my local Taco Bell is to me at 2 a.m. when my drunk ass is getting hungry. Cheap, convenient, and delicious. Only difference is I'm more likely to get injured by the chalupa than the harpy is by the sloth. Besides tree chalupas, the second most common prey for harpies are the freed slaves of marine, monkeys. Lots of different kinds of small monkeys, weighing anywhere from 1 to 12 kilograms. Then, the smaller items on their balance sheet include other birds, mainly tail chasing them in flight, but that's mainly racially motivated. On somewhat rare occasions, ground mammals are targeted, such as peccaries, deer fawns, squirrels, and possums, as well as domestic livestock like chickens, lambs, goats, and young pigs. The latter three of which would probably constitute its most applicable experience for this matchup at hand. They attack generally by quickly swooping down on their prey, trying to catch it off guard, and they can reach a speed of up to 80 kilometers per hour on their swoop. They are known to use the big brain move of getting gravity to do the actual killing for it, if there is sufficient open space below it, by grabbing its prey and dropping it to fall to its death. They are capable of lifting a prey up to or even slightly above its own body weight. And even for prey multiple times its own body weight, it can grab it and glide down using its massive wingspan as a parachute to an open area with which it can drop it to get that splatter effect. This can be utilized on the likes of goats 4 times its own body weight. When this is not the strategy, it relies almost entirely on the crushing force of its talons, the largest of any eagle in the world, to puncture vital organs and crush vital bones. On a decent-sized opponent, its pecking beak may do up to around a maximum of 20% of accumulated damage, leading to the kill, although in many cases it would account for a flat 0% of the pre-damage kill. Using its beak is a far more high-risk, low-reward strategy, as it's not only less dangerous, but it necessitates putting its head, neck, and the rest of its body in very close range for a counterattack. Using only its legs puts its weak spots at maximum range to avoid a hit and be able to disengage quickly at will. The placement of its talon attack is generally the back, sometimes the top of the head or the side. And not only is this obviously the most accessible part of the prey's body, considering it's an attack from above, but from the back it is also generally out of range of the other animal's legs and mouth. Often the force of the landing, coupled with the fact it often catches the prey by surprise, results in the other animal tumbling forward and falling over, usually with the eagle retaining its initial grip, but it does sometimes result in a repositioning, where things can get a little more spicy for both animals. Overall, the harpy eagle is also a very skillful, successful hunter with a decently high intelligence, just like the hyena. Finally, we've come to the part where we can actually start discussing the outcome of the match itself. Although the animals live in disjoint habitats and therefore have no inbuilt genetic nor life-acquired experience against each other, they both would have experience against very similar counterparts, and they would treat the other pretty much exactly as they would those most similar counterparts. Most eagle species, more than 60 of them, call Africa and Eurasia home, 17 at least just in South Africa, which is where I'm from, by the way. The largest of these being the martial eagle at around the same weight as the harpy, but with an even larger wingspan. In addition, there are plenty of other large birds of prey in Africa which the hyena would recognize. The most common bird adversary the hyena has experience with is the vulture, which it competes with for eating privileges over dead carcasses, so the hyena would know its enemy and know its sword. The harpy has fewer like-for-like replacements in its own habitat, but the most common would be dogs and wolves, and goats and deer at a bit more of a stretch. However, it will have far less experience against any of them, with most probably never seeing them ever in its life, and even fewer having been in contact or combat with one. Nevertheless, I would expect it to anticipate a biting threat from the hyena instinctually and put good effort into avoiding its telescopic head. It seems rather clear that the eagle will be the only one capable of initiating engagements, as it would not accept an engagement beginning on the ground. Assuming they begin on the ground, the eagle would be airborne before the hyena can attack it and would fly to such a height that it can reach maximum or near maximum swoop velocity, as that's its preference. At this speed, it would swoop down to attack the hyena and contact would be near certain. The only question is, what kind of contact will that be? This will be a test of the hyena's explosive agility against the mid-air maneuverability of the eagle, as the eagle will try a safe landing at the hyena's back out of range of its head, while the hyena will try to either face it head on with its elongated head or scurry about so that the eagle doesn't make a smooth landing, and in the chaos of both being on the ground, try to get that vice-like bite in. The hyena could, in theory, go on its back and try to fend off the attack with its legs, which, by the way, was my older sister's strategy growing up and surprisingly effective. Its legs are slightly longer than the hyena's, but that would be so against its modus operandi that I would rule this option out completely. Given the fact that the eagle attack would be at a bit of an angle and not completely straight down, this would leave two real possibilities. The first is that the hyena decides to face the eagle head-on and goes mouth first into the path of the swooping eagle. This would likely imply not too much movement on the hyena's side, especially side to side, maybe a forward thrust and a leap to meet it, or it would simply stand its ground. And if the hyena decides this course of action, the eagle would have no choice but to face it head-on, as the hyena's turning speed is great enough that even if the eagle tries a last-minute swoop around to get to the back of it, as it intends, the hyena would simply spin around and the result would be the same. Moreover, the hyena's movement wouldn't be so evasive that the eagle would miss its target, so I see the scenario only really leading to the eagle's feet making contact with the hyena's head, or at furthest its neck, and the hyena's open mouth also making contact with the eagle's foot/leg. With both the eagle and the hyena's jaw at full open stretch, I'd say that the eagle would just be able to get its talons around the jaw, but it would be a close call and a snug fit if I'm right. And if the eagle were to use its full might to clamp down immediately, it would be capable of shutting the hyena's mouth, which has far less power opening than it does closing. The hyena would be very unlikely to get its way without taking substantial damage if it bit the foot itself, but would fare far better biting the leg itself. Of course, it would do much better still if it bit the body, but in this scenario, that would entail bypassing its legs, which is not really possible if the eagle grips onto its head. Considering the eagle has two legs and attacks with both close together, while the hyena has only one mouth, I find it exceedingly likely the eagle makes critical contact with at least one of them. So the options are that 1. The hyena catches one foot or lower leg and the eagle doesn't get a grab with the other. 2. The hyena catches one foot or lower leg and the eagle does get a grab with the other. 3. The hyena doesn't get any bite and the eagle gets a grab with only one foot. And 4. The hyena doesn't get any bite and the eagle gets a grab with both feet. If the hyena does get the bite, it may take some damage in the process with the grazing talon, but regardless, it would likely break the foot/leg and leave it inoperable going forward. This would not have any fatal repercussions, nor really impact the eagle's flying afterwards, but it would remove one of its two primary weapons. If both legs are made inoperable, the hyena's victory would be basically inevitable. However, if the eagle gets a foot grab on the hyena, the best possibility would be that it takes out one or even both of the hyena's eyes, but this would be highly unlikely. I also find it unlikely that it would lead to a direct kill, although it probably does have the strength to break the hyena's skull if the talon grab has good placement and the eagle exerts maximum squeezing pressure, and this would surely lead to a kill. Perhaps this probability would be around 20%. If not a fatal squeeze, however, it would still be very damaging, maybe resulting in around 25% damage per foot as an estimate of the weighted average of the different placement options. These 4 options, however, actually collapse into just 2. Why? Well, if the hyena bites 1 foot, the eagle's second would be free to grab the head, so option 1 collapses into option 2. Also, option 3 would collapse into option 4 similarly, because I think if the hyena doesn't get any bite, while the eagle gets a grab with only 1 foot upon contact, the other one will be dangling momentarily and be the only part in range of the hyena's bite. But, considering the hyena's preoccupation with the foot that has made contact, which is also likely to obscure its vision somewhat, the only realistic option is that the eagle lands the second foot as well, as opposed to it getting bitten, collapsing option 4 into option 3 and implying an estimate of around 40% damage to the eagle, if not death, while the probability of death I will raise to around 30%. With the relabeling to only options 1 and 2, the relative probability given the assumption of a head-on collision, I put it around 35% to 65% respectively. The other primary type of engagement would be if the hyena doesn't try to face the oncoming swoop head-on, but tries to quickly scurry out of the way at the last second and then engage when the eagle hits the floor next to it. In this scenario, the eagle could either manage to successfully maneuver last second to get the back grab it favors, or it would miss and its momentum would surely cause it to make contact with the ground. This would be an agility and explosiveness battle, which I would expect the eagle to win around 60% of the time, giving it an edge due to greater in-life and evolutionary experience in this scenario. If it crashes to the ground, it would try to quickly become airborne again, as it would not risk a ground engagement, although the hyena would probably be able to strike it before it manages to do so. Since the eagle would be in the motion of takeoff, its feet would be pushing off the ground and so unavailable for attacking. Therefore, the hyena would get an unanswered strike. The bite would surely either be on the eagle's neck, body, or wing. A neck bite would be game over. A body bite would have around a 75% chance of a kill, otherwise dealing probably around as much as 70% damage. And a wing attack would not be fatal, but would have around an 80% chance of leaving the eagle incapable of flight, and around 30% damage towards a fatality either way through blood loss. But if the eagle is incapable of flight, the odds of the hyena winning would be so high that for the sake of simplifying my probabilistic work, I'm just going to assume the hyena ends up winning. As far as the relative probabilities go for the neck, wings, and body, I would give 15% for the neck, 40% for the wings, and 45% for the body. In the alternative event that the eagle does manage to maneuver quickly enough to get the back grab, there would be around probably only 20% chance of getting the kill from this position, which would probably require repositioning its grab to the head for a skull crush. But if it's unable to do this, I'd estimate it would still result in around 33% damage to the hyena. Finally, of these two main possibilities, being whether the hyena faces the eagle head on versus whether it tries to scurry away from the swoop and attack after, I put the likelihood at 33% to 67% respectively, because from footage and research, this seems the more standard hyena response to a variety of attacks by birds of prey. I've put all of these options, with the probabilities already mentioned and listed here, together into a probability tree, this monstrosity here. I won't go much into it, but it's labeled and available for your perusal if you have nothing better to do, in which case I'm a little worried about you. You should probably find a hobby. All branches ending in a red line indicate the eagle winning, and all in blue the hyena. All branches have a probability assigned and keeps track of cumulative damage and even how many feet the eagle has in the event that the hyena gets the chomp in. I will mention that for my own simplicity and sanity, I have made two little cheeky shortcuts to minimize the number and length of the branches, which as you can see is already a great big mess, and without these it would be a completely unmanageable beast. So I hope you'll understand my shortcoming in rigor. The most significant of these two is to assume that whichever of the two options that the hyena chooses first, that being head-on or scurrying away, it will stick to this option for the remainder of the match. The second, I'll just put on the screen here. Using this, I calculated the final probability to be, drumroll please, 49.75% that the eagle wins and 50.25% that the hyena does. Fuck! Basically 50-50 again for the second video in a row. But that's the way with maths. Cold hard bitch. That brings us to the end of the video, which as usual starts slow and ends like a nuclear bomb just hit. Thank you so much for watching. If you think my analysis and work and memes have deserved it, please do give a thumbs up and subscribe, because every single week I'm coming out with a new video covering other animal 1v1 matchups with the same cold hard logic and dry humor. Stay savage.